Hey everybody, welcome back. Several times a month, I get asked about the use of a polygraph in help of reestablishing trust and emotional safety in the aftermath of betrayal trauma. So today, I just want to share a few thoughts with you about the things that I have learned over the years in working with many couples that have chosen to go the route and have a polygraph be a part of their healing journey. The first point I want to make is that I don't think a polygraph should ever be used as a punitive device or some kind of punishment towards the unfaithful spouse. I think it works best when the unfaithful spouse works through a disclosure of some kind, however you and your therapist are deciding that disclosure should look. But there should be a disclosure. And then the unfaithful spouse goes and takes a polygraph, and it's like it's a gift to the betrayed spouse where you are verifying that you are telling the truth as best as you know how. It can take so much pressure off of both of you if you start to look at it in those terms. It's really a gift. It's a tool to help reestablish safety and trust in the relationship. Even though I know it's anxiety provoking in the very beginning when you even start to think about doing this, but take it one step at a time. So one of the most common questions that I get is, what is a polygraph? How does it work? And I can't go into all the details here, but I can tell you that there's really three components. There's a pretest, then there's the test itself, and then there's the analysis of the data. And that pretest oftentimes just consists of a conversation with the client and the polygrapher. Oftentimes the polygrapher will have a conversation with the betrayed spouse over the phone or via email to just decide what it is they're looking for. What is it that they really want to know? And again, many polygraphers have their way of doing this. They may have a set of questions that they ask you up front, or they may rely on the two of you to bring in the questions that you want verified. Also, as a part of the pretest, the polygrapher will explain the equipment and how it's used and what its functions are. They usually do a pretty good job of explaining that they're not measuring anxiety because everybody's anxious when they go in. They're measuring physiological responses. So the second phase is the test itself, where they ask you the agreed upon relevant questions that you and your spouse, with the guidance of the polygrapher and your therapist, have all agreed upon up front. Each question has to address a single behavioral issue. You can't lump a bunch of things together, and they can't be broad, like, does he love me? Has he ever loved me? That's too broad. So that's my very simple explanation of what a polygraph examination does, the stages of it, and how it can look. If you choose to go this route, the polygrapher will give a much better detailed explanation of each phase before you even take it. And one more thing I want you to know here is that the use of a polygraph, in my opinion, is a deeply personal one for a couple in recovery, and it warrants a lot of thought and respect and care for yourself and for each other. It can be a very helpful and powerful tool. Another common question that I get is, how does a polygraph help? Well, I alluded to this a little bit earlier, where it helps get to the bedrock, the foundation of what the truth is. You think about it, if somebody has been lying or deceiving you for 3 months to 15 years, you don't know what's true anymore. I think it can be a really helpful tool to begin to diminish at least some of the unknowns and some of the uncertainties, because what we know to be true is the two things that most betrayed spouses report that are the worst things for them are any kind of lie and what I don't know. And I think a polygraph can be a really helpful tool for most couples. Another point that I want to make is that what I've seen over the years is polygraph takers, once they get over the anxiety of doing this, and especially if they struggle with sexual addiction and they need to take several, they won't be taking them for the rest of their lives, but they may take 2, 3, 4 over the next couple of years, what they find is that it's a very supportive tool for their own work so that they continue to be honest with themselves. That's a really important piece to this. That oftentimes that first polygraph is very challenging because of the anxiety and you've never done it before. And just being strapped up to a bunch of equipment can be anxiety provoking to begin with. But over the years, I've seen people change in the way they think and the way they approach a polygraph. I've seen men take polygraphs 5, 6, 7 years down the road, and their wife is saying, "You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that." And he's like, "No, I do. I'm doing these for me now. This is one of the things that helps me stay honest with myself." So the mindset can change if you need to go that route. I just want to make that clear. Another really common question that I get is, what if I can't remember, or what if he doesn't remember? And the simple answer is that a polygraph can't test memory. It will test if he's telling the truth about not remembering. And if he really doesn't remember, then there won't be any physiological changes to those relevant questions that get asked. That's a really common thing because there are a lot of things that people that have been unfaithful, oftentimes there are things they don't remember. That is true. And often there are things that they don't want to share because they're afraid you'll leave or they're too ashamed. And nobody can tell the difference until you test that. And one of the most common objections that I hear about taking a polygraph is that people say, "I don't want to base my marriage on a polygraph." And what I tell people all the time is that you're not going to base your marriage on the results of a polygraph, whether you pass it or you fail it. Remember that a polygraph is just one piece of the puzzle in this recovery journey. Let's say you go take a polygraph and you pass it with flying colors, but if you're not getting better and better at expressing empathy and compassion and care for your spouse, then that polygraph really is a waste of time and money. It's just one piece of the puzzle. And I don't even think it's the most important piece. I think empathy is probably the most important piece. I tell unfaithful spouses all the time, become an expert in empathy and compassion and care for your spouse, for your marriage, for yourself. That, in my opinion, is the most important piece of this whole thing. And the thing that I want you to remember more than anything is that the polygraph is not to be used as punishment of any kind. It's a powerful tool that can help reestablish relational safety and trust. And additionally, I really want people to quit calling it a lie detector test. In my opinion, that term itself is punitive and anxiety provoking. And we at Fair Recovery are committed to helping people succeed in every step along the way in building a life of meaning and purpose. And if you choose to use a polygraph as a part of your healing journey, remember that it's just one part and never a replacement for empathy, compassion, or care. And if you're struggling through any kind of betrayal trauma, I'd invite you to look into the Emergency Marriage Seminar online at affairrecovery.com. It's a 13-week course that'll walk you through all the critical steps that you need to address betrayal trauma. And it's got the intention of reestablishing trust and reconnecting as a couple. And I think you'll find it a safe place for both of you where we don't allow any kind of shaming or blaming for either spouse. Thanks for joining me again this week. If you're watching this video on YouTube, check out the link in the video description below and read the rest of the article and the link to more details of the EMS online course at affairrecovery.com. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next week.